Avengers 5 will reportedly now be a standalone film. According to the insider Daniel RBK, Avengers 5 has shifted to become a more standalone film. The story will be largely disconnected from Avengers Secret Wars. So, what do you gather from this rumor?
So a couple of things. There's a lot to take away from this news. Number one, it means that this Avengers. I'm going to start referring to things in the MCU as an Avengers cycle. Think of Infinity War and Endgame as one Avengers cycle. I would say Avengers 1 is one cycle, and I would also say Age of Ultron is its own cycle. Okay. And not all cycles are equal. But in our case of Avengers 5 and what's likely going to now be 6 and 7, I think it's smart because I think that they're going to create 2 Avengers cycles out of this. And I think that that's important. And I think it's important for a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't think they can abandon Kang for a lot of reasons. I think it would show that they don't believe in their product and they would abandon a major plan that a lot of fans were invested in. All right, I want Kang, number one. Number two, if it's going to be Doctor Doom, which it obviously is going to be Doctor Doom in 6 and 7 and maybe even 5, they need more time with Doctor Doom. You can't have one movie with Doctor Doom and you know how much I love Magneto, but imagine them doing one movie or like 1.5 movies with Doctor Doom getting like something like 40 minutes total screen time. And then we go into the Mutant Saga and someone like Magneto, who you know how much I love, but if you only do one movie with Doctor Doom, you're going to end up giving Magneto more screen time than him. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a way to judge something, but it is an indicator. And you need to give someone like Doctor Doom, number one, the proper introduction. Number two, some time in the MCU where he has caused some kind of deceit and chaos for our heroes. And number three, you need to be able to obviously wrap it up in an epic way. And I think that adding another Avengers movie into this plan is a good way to do that. I also think, and you're going to like this one, but if they are going to bring back any characters like Iron Man, I think it would be much more appropriate to do that if they had a full Avengers cycle without them. You can't bring Iron Man back the very next Avengers cycle. It doesn't work. How do you kill someone off and bring him right back? But if Avengers 5 is its own cycle, you could bring him back in the redemption arc in the final Secret Wars, not 6, but Avengers 7. It would make a lot more sense, and that would make a much more compelling case. And it gives them a lot more freedom to play around and do these things and take their creative liberties and tell a compelling story rather than something that was probably going to be rushed. Because fans, think about this. We've all been disappointed to some extent, some more than others, with the MCU post-Endgame, right? If Avengers 5 were to come out tomorrow, do you think that would be a good movie? Do you think people would be ready for it? We're nowhere near ready for Avengers 5. So slow things down and add an extra movie, it makes sense. And I'm all for it. I think it's great news. But Avengers 5 better have Kang, and it better be Kang-centric. They can't abandon it. Marvel can't say we don't believe in our own product. That's a horrible statement for the MCU franchise to make. And, listen, I see a lot of fans arguing online, they could do multiple Kang variants. They don't need to. Like, it's such a stupid idea that, you know what? We had to get rid of Jonathan Majors, so, now we should get 20 people to play Kang. No, they could just find a replacement and do exactly what they were going to do with Jonathan Majors. Duh.
So I agree with most of what you said. I do think that it is smart to do this Avengers film now, and then you prolong Secret Wars. But I do disagree with going with Kang for the Avengers 5. And here's the reason why, because I think that Doctor Doom can play what the role of what Age of Ultron played. Where like Thanos, there wasn't really a trace of Thanos in Avengers Age of Ultron. But because of Vision and the Soul Stone, you knew that it was going to lead to Thanos, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
the Mind Stone, sorry. So and you knew that with us finally seeing a Infinity Stone, we're like, okay, we know that Vision and Thanos are going to clash at a point. And I think that with having Doctor Doom come into your Avengers 5, I think that you can use him to push more multiversal stuff with Kang the Conqueror. And I think that he can play that kind of role because I do agree with what you said, right? Marvel can't show us that they don't believe in the product, aka Kang. And I do think that having someone that can build up to Kang the Conqueror would be an awesome thing. And if it is someone like Giancarlo, I would feel like they are undermining Kang by making him the villain of Avengers 5 and then maybe benching him for 6 and 7. If that makes sense.
Well,
So I would like something to where maybe if the Fantastic Four pushed Doctor Doom a little bit, and then we maybe see Doctor Doom and maybe Doctor Strange 3 or something like that, and then we end up getting a Avengers movie with Doctor Doom and Kang having some part in it behind the scenes, or maybe Kang sending one of his variants, I'm not sure, to help Doom or something like that. But I think that having Doctor Doom take that lead in Avengers 5, he takes the role that Ultron played. And a lot of people hated on Age of Ultron back in the day. But when you watch Age of Ultron 2 Infinity War, it is one of the most perfect setups for that film. And I think that's what a Avengers 5. And even if the villain isn't Doctor Doom, I think it should be someone else that's not Kang as the center villain. I think they have to choose someone that's going to be able to intro us into this most powerful multiversal machine of Kang the Conqueror.
So number one, I don't think Doctor Doom. I think you could have him in Avengers 5. I think you could totally do it. And Kang and Doom work together all the time, which we've spoken about, and we both agree that Doctor Doom is probably going to be the guy to take out Kang. And I think that you could even do Avengers 5 and have Doom come in at the end or even in the post credit. Like imagine them doing Doctor Doom showing up in the post credit, killing Kang and cutting the screen to the credits. Like that would be so fire.
Yeah, so in my opinion, I think that the MCU is taking the Dark Knight trilogy strategy, as much as I hate to say this. And this is what I think is happening, right? Because this is facts. The reality is that if you took Avengers 1, Avengers Age of Ultron, Avengers Infinity War, and Endgame, you would understand the MCU universe to a degree. You would have a well-versed view if you didn't watch any solo films and you just watched all of the Avengers films. You would eventually end up knowing who all the characters are, etc., etc. There's a lot of people that came on the train when Civil War dropped. A lot of people only watched Civil War, Black Panther, and then Infinity War, and like a lot of people didn't see Iron Man 3, bro. A lot of people didn't see Iron Man 2. A lot of people didn't see Iron Man 1. And the reality is that a lot of people jumped on the train late. And I think that Black Panther was what really started the run, because that movie grossed bonkers, and then
I just watched it again. It is
what a
incredible.
great, oh my god,
Yeah.
top five MCU film of all time, hands down. Might be top 3, or might be no top 5. Anyways, so I think that what Marvel is going to do, because of the fumblage of the face, and I like a lot of the projects in the last couple of phases. Like, I'm not here to say like that I dunk on it, but even though I like something, I can still admit that it's not the same aura that we had back in the day. I think that they're going to kind of put everything into these 3 films, and that's kind of my view of it. Is that they're like, hey, a lot of these projects are kind of mid, and we messed up, but we are going to kind of encompass these next maybe 2 to 3 phases in 3 to 4 films. And that's why I say like they are taking the Dark Knight approach, right? Because from Batman Begins to the Dark Knight, you already know what happened in between those films by just watching the first 2 minutes or by watching the first action scene of The Dark Knight. Like watching the first scene of The Dark Knight, you understood what happened at the end of Batman Begins. And then in the first probably 10 minutes of The Dark Knight Rises, you understood what happened from the end of The Dark Knight to The Dark Knight Rises. And that's what I think that they're going to do with the Avengers films. And if that is done, I think that is one of the most genius ways to bring fans back. And I'm not in because look, I'm gonna be real. Like as much as I'm rooting for the Fantastic Four, I don't see the Fantastic Four doing $1 billion. The best I see the Fantastic Four doing is 500 million. And I really think this movie is going to gross. And 500 million is me being nice. I think that this movie's probably going to gross around 450 to 400, which isn't bad.
I think it's going to be 350 to 400. I actually, they're not a wide outside of like our world of comics. They're not widely known. They haven't been on an animated show that's hot in a long time. Kids don't really know these characters, and it's not like someone, it's not like putting a S logo on the chest and selling a ticket. It's not Superman.
Exactly.
You have to remember that.
Unless if the trailer is one of the greatest things we've ever seen of all time, I think it's doing 400 to 450. And I mean, we obviously know that Deadpool Wolverine is doing $1 billion easily, but other than that, like all of the other projects on the docket, I don't really see grossing $1 billion. And this also, brings up the fact that this is I'm not trying to mimic or copy what happened in the past, but this mimics kind of what we grew up with, right? Where Iron Man 1 didn't gross $1 billion, right? Captain America 1 didn't gross $1 billion. Thor 1 didn't gross $1 billion. Then we got to Avengers 1, which went crazy, right? It grossed, it went wild. And so I think that we're back at that step one phase where these films aren't going to be doing the craziest, but they will be successful. And because of that, Marvel is going to put their all into these Avengers films. And that's kind of, and Jerry, that's kind of my view at this point.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the early Marvel movies walked so the Dark Knight trilogy could run, so the MCU learned how to do the franchise right and is doing a marathon. That's how I would call it.